If you've been on the internet over the past 7 to 10 days, you have probably seen the James Charles latest drama. Now, I personally didn't feel like covering it because I had enough other stuff going on, as well as the fact that him being an out-of-touch influencer was A, not news to me, and B, nowhere near as bad as the other allegations that he's kind of confirmed himself and that are still floating around him. I do not understand why he still has a platform or why people still watch his content. And to me, it's a sad comment on society that people that do similar things to him seem to have no repercussions and can still go about their daily lives. The reason I am here today to talk about this is because that particular opinion was mirrored by someone that I least expected. Quite frankly, I am so limited to my viewage that I only saw people's perspective predominantly on the left, or on the internet left, as I'm going to start calling it. So struck me surprised when I find that none other than Blaire White, the, in my opinion, extremely right-wing and dangerous content creator, had very much similar stuff to say about James Charles.
What universe are we living in where this man still has a career? In the real world, if you were a poor diddler, you would be in jail.
So I couldn't help but dig a little deeper, and today we're going to be talking about what Blaire White said about the James Charles drama. We'll cover the brief outline of the drama in case you aren't aware, and honestly, if you're not, I envy you. And then stick around to the end because I am going to make several links to something else far more important than any of this. So without further ado, let's get into today's video. Let's keep the context super brief because I'm pretty sure mostly everyone here will understand what's going on. But Blaire White, who I've talked about briefly on the channel, mostly in the Alexis Blake deep dive I did, is a right-wing trans woman who is a pick-me on the right, basically. Talks about a lot of right-wing stuff, just being very racist, and I haven't gone fully into her history myself, but I know enough to know that she's on the wrong side of history, in my opinion. Then there's also James Charles, which is the same thing. He was the first cover boy years ago and is a makeup influencer. He has been on record apologising for texting and communicating with minors, and there are several allegations out against him. Many of the minors have come out and said, I was spoken to inappropriately, and there are various stages of those allegations being proved, self-admitted, allegedly, in my opinion. He still continues to make content, which is very, in my overt opinion, problematic that someone like that still has a platform. But he was recently the subject of this week's internet drama and commentary when he reacted to a Spirit Airlines employee that was recently let go, also in the news, and he went crazy influencer in his response. There was some scary zoom angles. It was then deleted. He tried to apologize, but because he is a bad person, that first apology wasn't quite hitting correctly, so he deleted that and he did a second apology, blah blah blah. Then, as far as I followed the situation, the Spirit Airlines employee actually finally reached out and kind of put themselves out in the public conversation to kind of talk about the situation.
I'm the girl that James Charles talked about in that video.
And one of the main things that stuck out to me was that James Charles, in his original apology, says, which we'll cover later in this video, but he says, like, you're a white, able-bodied person, you can go and get a job easily.
People lose their jobs every day, and you're white, pretty, and able-bodied.
Now, I don't know if he means that in a bad way, in the bad faith way, but even if we were to take it as good faith in that him understanding that it is arguably harder for people of colour or non-white people, for example, or less able-bodied people to get jobs, and is like kind of actually secretly woke, and he's saying like, you're, as a white person, allegedly, well, we'll get to that, but a white person who is able-bodied is going to find it easier to get a job in this society of various minorities being oppressed. So you of all people should be like not asking for charity. If that's the case, that's one thing. I mean, there's still a lot to unpack there. But it turns out when this employee kind of came out that had reached out to him on Instagram, ergo, I'm sure there were pictures of her available. It turns out like she's not a white person at all. So that whole thing was crazy. We then have to assume that he was kind of playing a slight role when he did the video, thinking it was going to be hilarious and everyone was going to eat it up, and they did nothing of the sort. So anyway, suffice to say, he had a very out of touch, very rich person take on this, and just disgusting in all ways, but like none of this should be surprising. Like, of course he's disgusting. He has exhibited various disgusting behavior, in my opinion, so I don't know why we're all shocked here, because it got brought to the the public. A lot of the Spirit Airlines employees managed to start GoFundMes as well, and she's had a lot. The original employee has had a lot added to her GoFundMe, so that has happened in a good thing. But it's a very sad society that we live in, that they have to go through this in order to just have food to survive. Like, this is all just such a dystopian nightmare of a case. I didn't want to talk about that specifically because of the allegations around James Charles. I don't think platforming him and continuing his popularity is, in my opinion, a good thing. I can understand why other people did it, and I watched several of the creators that did talk about it to keep up to date with it. And I even got as far as creating a folder on my hard drive and writing out notes to get ready to film for it. So I understand. I'm not trying to come out with some kind of higher than thou or more than thou. Like, I was gonna think about covering it, but I just decided not to in the end. There wasn't enough to it. Everyone had said everything, and there was nothing I felt like I could add, so I'm not going to put that into a video. However, then there's Miss Blaire White. So transphobic, internally misogynistic as well, racist in my opinion, at least unaware of the issues of white supremacy in modern society and the patriarchy. And as much as I can say to what I have seen, at very least is aware of these issues and doesn't seem to care, doesn't seem to consider these things as issues, therefore upholds them, and is therefore, in my opinion, a problematic figure. Right wing by my definition. She released a reaction video, like many people did, to the James Charles content. And in my opinion, the amount of vitriol and hate she has for the outlandish trans people that don't fit to heteronormative stereotypes, like trans women that don't shave, she would call that an issue and stuff like that. I've seen enough content to know that I can say that out loud on the internet. I'm looking at the thumbnail and I'm thinking, well, what does she have to say about this problematic figure, James Charles? Like, what could possibly be her take as someone that would uphold several of these issues? And on the right wing, where she is appealing to, where she's trying to be picked by as the right wing pick me that she is, I'm thinking, well, what can she add to this narrative? Well, honey, take a seat, because we're going to get into it. It's kind of wild. Okay, let's start off with the easy round.
I can't imagine being that horrible human being and trying to exemplify the other ways in which I'm a horrible human being all of the time. Why he still has an audience, I really don't know.
So to start, Blaire White talks about how she can't understand why James Charles has the audience he still does after the allegations out against him. Now, I agree. That's half the reason I didn't want to sit and make this video. But so that's what we would call cancelling. Darling, sweetie, diva. So you agree people should be held accountable to the things they've done in the past, and they shouldn't have a platform afterwards.
When it comes to the business side of what I do, opportunities, etc., it's always about me being too controversial, right? Whether it's, on the right, you're going to have limited opportunities because you're trans, whether it's, on the left or mainstream media, it's because you're on the right. And that's fine, because that's what I choose. However, it's just so crazy how trans or Republican is so controversial. We have a whole
try see what that opinion gets you with some of the right-wing people you mingle with out there in the world of your pick-me lifestyle. See their opinions as to whether they agree or not. Because to me, I think it's pretty profound that there's so much uproar on the right about cancelling and people being cancelled, and how that's unjust, and they're also probably the loudest people in the room, and they then go on several talk shows talking about how cancelled they are. But I don't quite know if that really coordinates with everything else that Blaire White appears to agree with. I'm starting to question it at this point. But so is she for cancelling or is she not? That does bring a few people she's collabed with into question as to whether that was hypocritical of her. The main one being Alex Jones.
And I get apologizing if you make a mistake. For me, I apologize if I get something wrong, information wrong, because I'm here to give information. But to apologize for your character, that's who you are.
But I couldn't help have my attention catched by the misinformation element to this. Tell that to Alex Jones, who you have been so chummy with in the past. Are you saying that everyone that gives out misinformation, knowingly or unknowingly, when that's brought to light, should apologise for doing so? On the right wing? Okay. How's that going to go down? I mean, I'm not saying that never happens other than at right-wing circles, but we are we being gaslit into not believing that many right-wing grifters specifically push misinformation to help their narrative, whereas on the left, at least, we have such an issue with infighting that wouldn't happen, or it happens far less, at least. And like, even a small channel like mine, I'm held to higher levels of accountability of not spreading misinformation, which is a good thing, again, and I think I should be. But like, I'm held to a higher accountability than most large right-wing platforms that can just make up stories. When that is brought to light, there are no repercussions. They continue to go about there every day. I've known creators on the left that are belittled and pushed off the platform for far less. But here we have Blaire White saying, if you make misinformation, then you should apologise. Okay. As I say, tell that to Alex Jones. Make him apologise to everyone he hurt with the Sandy Hook situation. Or does suddenly the idea of apologising for misinformation not quite matter when it's someone like that?
I just don't even know how a rich diddler has the audacity to talk about welcome to the real world. In the real world, if you were a poor diddler, you would be in jail. And that's the messed up thing we're living in, right? If you're rich enough, you can be a predator, you can harm minors, and it's all good. So you don't know anything about the real world.
And she also talks about rich people and about how he's basically just punching down to someone poorer than him. If you truly think like that, then working on the right, that is innately the extortionate side of things, billionaires, neo-feudalism that is pushing people further into poverty, the wealth gap and divide, how can you say that and believe that in your heart and then go on to continue to grift with millionaires and billionaires that don't care about poor people, that push the same rhetoric that, like, if you're poor, it's your fault, and if you're homeless, you should, like the Fox News presenter that said, if you're homeless, you just get rid of them, just euthanize them.
Either you take the resources that we're going to give you, or you decide that you're going to be locked up in jail. That's the way it has to be now.
Or involuntary lethal injection or something. Just kill them. Just kill them.
That's the side you're on, Blaire White. Like, are you telling us something? Are you telling us deep down that you don't agree to these right-wing beliefs? Or are you going to make a left shift soon? Blaire White says that she considers being an influencer a real job, and that because she does it herself, she, to that extent, understands that James Charles is talking from a perspective of like being an influencer is a real job.
I do believe influencing is a real job. I'm not going to sit here and say it's not. I'm up here doing it. However, like, real world, you're sitting in somebody's mansion. Like, what are we talking about?
I know many right-wing people that wouldn't even consider that, and they would say, like, the more like pull yourself up by your bootstraps kind of vibe, and that like influencing is easy, like you have no idea how hard it was, like more of the older generation of right-wing people. And I'm kind of like, okay, that perked my ears up, let's say, but let's move straight on to the next stuff. Now, the other thing that really stuck to me is, if we just think back to just a few moments ago in the video, I talked about how James Charles says you are white, able-bodied, da-da-da-da-da.
People lose their jobs every day, and you're white, pretty, and able-bodied. You're in a much better position than a lot of other people out here who are trying clearly much harder to make a better life for themselves. Why would I help you? Aside from that, 17,000 people lost their jobs at Spirit Airlines. Why do you think you need the GoFundMe?
And if we are to take that to mean he has an understanding that minorities that are oppressed in society have a harder job finding a job, that like that's kind of ironically kind of a bit woke, I don't know. Now, she watches this clip and she doesn't say anything. Now, in her previous content, she's frequently talked about how like that's like racism is the case, or like, you know, she's on the side very much of like it's not harder for black people to live in society and all that, which I disagree with entirely. So then why didn't she say that there? Like, why didn't she hear that statement from James and just roll her eyes like she always does, is her groundbreaking reaction, and say, well, that's not the case, we don't think that here. Anyway, she didn't say that. So are we led to believe she agrees? If this is a reaction video where she's giving her opinions, and she had no opinions there, am I thinking too far into this that she like doesn't have anything to say? Ergo, she agrees there. Like, I don't know. Am I just too lost in the sauce? Chat, do you need to pull me back to reality? Have I just been too deep in J.K. Rowling's tweet history that I'm lost? I just need a month off. Like, let me know. But if you agree with my like take there, let me know so I'm not completely lost my mind.
Why do you think you need the GoFundMe? I can at least like 1%
Here's the thing. Slide in James Charles DMs as a little boy. It's all green. You're good. Be an adult wanting help and you're going to get attacked like that.
If this were the other way around, like we're seeing this happen with ContraPoints, if this was someone that we considered on the left creating content that was so far to the other side's talking points, we would be asking, oh my God, are they doing a right shift? Are they gonna, why I left the left? Like, is this pending? Is this an Anna Kasparian situation? Because quite frankly, everything she said was almost bar for bar the same as the majority of the takes on the left. Now, I do think there is a Venn diagram of situations that left or right people consider bad.
I mean, he admitted, he confirmed that he has spoken to multiple underage boys via text, sexting, etc. So why he still gets all of these opportunities, why he still is in good standing with every social platform he's on, despite admitting to using those social platforms to prey on underage boys. Like, what is controversial? I mean, I know after the Epstein files, I guess it's almost like the best time to be a predator. You can get away with whatever you want. But for me, it's kind of like, what universe are we living in where this man still has a career, number one, but also is still working with brands, is still getting like, what are we talking about?
But it gave me this resounding feeling of how grifting on the right is so much easier. And if you say certain things, certain dog whistles and stuff like that, virtue signaling, you get a free pass to also just so many other levels. And how the opposite we see on the left, we hold anyone that calls himself a leftist to such a higher standard, which I think is a good thing. Don't get me wrong. Stop typing, people. I think that is a good thing. And I think we must have standards. And I think that that's one of the reasons why I'm kind of proud to be on the left. Does that make sense? Different to infighting. But Blaire White's ability to grift so far to the right and still say everything that we're saying on the left, it boggled my brain. I mean, someone could watch this video and it's just on its own and have no idea about Blaire White's other opinions in past and very much follow her and just not know that this was how she thought, which I think is a dangerous thing. That's why I called it dangerous earlier. Similar to the Alexis Blake situation. But equally, if people do understand her previous takes and they listen to this and they listen to her takes about James Charles and the drama that happened there, I'm thinking, well, then you agree with several things on the left. And like, what else can we, I don't want to say agree on, because I don't think the left and the right have to agree and all hold hands. And I think that that's dangerous, actually. But what else is there in common that potentially we can get people to listen, take information, learn and educate themselves and rethink about other things as well? Like maybe immigrants don't deserve to die, like what else can we reteach you, And it reminded me of the kind of Luigi Mangione situation where we also saw this similarity where people on the left and people on the right didn't really have any difference of opinion. It was like, yeah, good, the billionaire is in the wrong here, All this to say, to go back to my original take, is that it's just so clearly easier to grift on the right. There's just something so gross about the fact that she can make this video and it can just be out there and it's the same take as most of the left-leaning creators that I watched. Like, something just doesn't sit right with me. Maybe I'm missing something here. And I'm not saying we should just always be on two other sides of history, but I'm saying for the sake of wanting to know who we can and can't trust, I think the separation between the two is important. And it also reminds me of that law, I can't remember the name of it right now, but how it takes 10 times more energy to debunk a lie than it does to just lie. Blaire White can just completely grift to the right and she can say all of these right-wing ideologies and she can punch down to other people in the community and dunk on queer people as much as she wants. It is fundamentally easier to just say what everyone else is saying and talk out of your ass than it is to hold yourself to make sure you don't spread misinformation, to make sure that you do think for yourself and you're not plagiarizing people or just virtue signaling or just saying dog whistle. You can't just say the talking point without really knowing what you're on about, because trust me, you'll get very much called out on that in this ecosystem on the left, which is why I predominantly stick to subjects I know. And you'll frequently hear me say, if you want me to talk about a subject that I don't know about, I will point people in the right direction or learn it for myself, because I don't want to just talk out of my arse. But it just becomes so apparent that that's doable on the right. And honestly, the money that exists in right-wing ecosystems and on the right-wing sphere of the internet, it pays for people to do this, and it's just self-sustaining and it's just gross. This leads me to the same kind of conclusions and conversations about how Ethan Klein, who has done various lawsuits against various creators because he has the money and the ability to do so. It can kind of push that power out to other creators who don't have the same money and platform to fight back, and therefore it's harder for them to win in a case where they should win, in my opinion, or in certain legal situations that they would be deemed as winning a case, but they don't have the money to do so, and so they are bullied off of the platform. Take, for example, the Ethan Klein and Noah Samsen lawsuit.
I am getting sued by Ethan Klein. Ethan Klein, millionaire and host of the H3 podcast, has sued me for defamation. Here's the complaint. It's 31 pages, and I'm getting sued.
Noah Samsen recently released a video about the lawsuit going ahead and how Ethan Klein has yet again was trying to sue someone else, one of the smaller creators below him. Now, I won't go into too much detail because he's very litigious, but to talk about the Noah Samsen thing, I have a few dates to just bring up here. On the 27th of March 2025, Ethan Klein originally announced that he was going to sue Noah Samsen. On the 18th of May 2025, Noah Samsen did something to me that was one of the most warm-hearted things I've seen on the internet. To show that he can raise that much money to fight back, and he will, to not also waste that money to not go to a good cause, he does a charity, an UNRWA stream, to raise the money for the Palestinian cause, which to do against Ethan Klein, who is the defender of Israel, in my opinion, in this situation, is such a clever move, because what you're basically saying is you couldn't have this lawsuit if you choose to, but I'm going to prove A, I can fund it if you want me to, and B, I'm going to actually raise money for Palestine because that's what we should all be doing actually, so why don't you just do that instead? For then Ethan Klein to almost a year later, 2 days before it was too late to do so, I think, I don't know, for Ethan Klein to still go ahead with the lawsuit is something that if it were me, I would be so ashamed of. That it's gobsmacking that he can do that. He has that much money, that much power. Again, I would say right-wing adjacent in my opinion at this point. And Noah Samsen is having to do another charity live stream to raise money for his own lawsuit to fight back. I can't say the legal side of things, but to prove defamation, Ethan Klein has to go, it has the burden of proof, I believe. And what Noah Samsen said was an opinion, and I think it's widely considered that opinions are rarely considered to be defamation. You can tell I'm hedging a bunch of words because God knows why, you can all probably work it out. But for Noah Samsen to have to fight this, he's having to do way more, and it's going to be so much more of a burden on his life. And, he's not going to have the same money that Ethan Klein does. So anyway, on the 20th of May, Noah Samsen very recently just released a video announcing his charity live stream. And at the point of recording, it's already started now. And after the GoFundMe for his legal fees, which he, by the way, is saying anything surplus to what he needs will also go to the Palestinian cause. And if he gets the money back from winning the case and everything like that, the money will still go to the Palestinian cause. And it's like such a profoundly correct moral stance to have in such a difficult position that he's been put in. I think it's an accolade to his character. But that's going on as we speak. So, and there are some amazing creators, some of the friends I've worked with myself, but some of the biggest names in leftist online spaces. If you find this video, and if the James Charles Blaire White algorithm boosts it out and you've never heard of these people, go and support Noah Samsen if you can. Noah Samsen is a fantastic creator. He's one of the reasons I started my channel. Not to be parasocial about it, but like I feel sorry for him having to go through this, like I would do with all of the other people that Ethan Klein and anyone that has done a similar situation has targeted. So if I manage to get this edited and released in time, the stream for charity should still be going on. I say charity for him and his legal fees, but also for charity as well. It should still be happening. At the point of filming, it's already got to $76,000 out of the $200,000 aim or goal, and it's only been up for like a day or so. And I believe like some of the things he's going to do, it ends with him biking, along the American coast all the way to Hazan Piker to us for more money, which I think would be hilarious to see, as long as he's happy and healthy to do so. So anyway, if this does go viral and you've never heard of these people, go and support Noah Samsen if you can. I am going to give, and we don't have much as you all know, but I'm going to give a month and a half of my Patron budget, which it doesn't hit the threshold every month for me to be able to take it out. So I'm going to wait for it to hit that threshold. My husband and I decided like we can just give that to him and we'll be giving a small amount. I know that's not a lot. We don't have the most on this end. We live very humbly here in the Japanese rural countryside, but we're going to do what we can anyway. So if you have the means, please do consider to give to Noah Samsen's legal fees fundraiser. I think it's an amazing cause, and I wish him all the best. Anyway, that will be all for today. I hope you enjoyed today's video, and check out some of my other stuff if you're new to the channel. Otherwise, I will see you in the next one. Stay happy, stay healthy, and take care of yourselves. I love you all very much. Bye for now. Bye.